the Arturia PolyBrute. The Arturia PolyBrute. This is a very forward-thinking, modern analog synth that has a number of distinct features: hands-on control, expression capabilities, morphing, and of course the distinct matrix panel here on the front. So today I thought we'd do a bit of an overview of the synth, listen to some sounds along the way, a little bit of sound design, and finish off with my final thoughts and perhaps a few more patches towards the end. So let's start with creating a sound here and walking through the sections. So there's two oscillators on board, VCO1 and VCO2. VCO1 has a sawtooth wave, as well as triangle and square, with variable pulse width. And these are infinitely adjustable and blendable. VCO2, very similar, bring that up in the mixer. Same wave shapes. As well, there's a sub-oscillator, which can be blended in. Now, another great thing with the PolyBrute is the ability to control the stereo spread right from the front panel. So let's adjust that. You hear it's nice width in the stereo field there. In addition, you can tune oscillator 1. Quantized. You can also tune oscillator 2. It is non-quantized. A great feature on VCO1 is the metalizer, which is essentially a wavefolder. Gives a nice top-end sizzle. Furthermore, there's oscillator sync here. And of course, you can modulate that with an LFO. Furthermore, on oscillator 2, a great feature here is FM. Check this out. Great for bells, gongs, and sort of abstract sounds. Now, one other thing I didn't mention here is There is also filter FM, so VCO2 can modulate VCF1. That's just filter FM. Crazy sounds. Wow. So those are some great features there in the oscillators. Now let's bring in some noise, white noise to red or pink. Very flexible. There's also noise modulation of VCF2. We also have two filters here. Currently, we're listening to the ladder filter, which cut off. And resonance to self-oscillation with key track. Furthermore, there's distortion, which beefs up the filter, and as well as level. And of course, things such as VCF envelope amount control. Fantastic features there. That was just the ladder filter. Now let's take a listen to the Steiner-Parker filter. The great thing with the Steiner-Parker filter is that it is actually a multi-mode filter. So you've got low pass, high pass, band pass, and of course resonance. Envelope control. It's very growly. Another great feature with the Steiner-Parker, and for most of the synths in the Brute line, is the addition of Brute factor, which is filter feedback. Gives it even more aggressive tone. I mean, that's pretty gritty. Wow. All right, so that is the Steiner-Parker filter. Now, fantastic feature on the PolyBrute is the fact, of course, there's two filters here, but even better is the fact that you can actually route these in serial or parallel mode. So currently, we've been listening to it in serial. So let's enable both at the same time. Gives you even more stereo spread. Sounds lovely. And let's route from series to parallel with this knob. actually have independent control here. So one filter could be inverted, while the other is doing something completely different. For instance, high pass on the Steiner-Parker. Now, another great feature here is the master cutoff control. Allows you to actually control both filters at the same time. Especially in series mode. All right, now moving on, as you noticed I was playing with the VCF envelope. There's also a VCA envelope here. So we can, shorten the attack and decays, etc. Or have pads that fade in. Or long release times. An even greater feature on this synth is the fact that there's loopable envelopes. Both the VCF and the mod envelope can be looped. Now keep in mind, I'm not using any LFOs here, but this can be a pseudo LFO if you wish. Its own custom wave shape. And it actually goes into audio rate for great textures. Fantastic to have that on this synth. Really opens up extra sound design possibilities. Now, speaking of LFOs, there are 3 LFOs on board. So if we wanted to, for instance, have LFO1 affect master cutoff, for example, we simply go to an empty mod slot here, which is 5, hold it down, and I wiggle the item that I wanted to adjust as the destination, sets it as the master cutoff in slot 5 here. And I say, okay, in the sources list on the left, these are the destinations, these are the sources. LFO1 is in row D here, under slot 5. How much do I want to affect it by? We'll go up to 100% or less, or even negative amounts. So let's say somewhere around 40 something. Adjust the rate. And again, these, just like the envelopes, the LFO is going to audio rate. And there's a phase knob as well. This is great for drones or textures. And there's multiple wave shapes. So currently that's sine, triangle, square, sawtooth, reverse saw. Sample and hold. Sample and glide. Sounds awesome. Now check this out. We're only in mono retriggering mode. There's two other modes on here as well. There's poly retriggering. So in mono, it's always the same pattern in the LFO across all voices. But there's polyphonic LFOs. So each key gets its own LFO, each voice. Great to have that capability on this synth. Now LFO2 is basically identical to LFO1, but LFO3 actually has distinct features, including curve, symmetry, retriggering mode, single shot mode, and times LFO1. So you can actually control LFO3 from LFO1, which is a fantastic feature. So let's listen to LFO3 now. I'm going to disable LFO1 from affecting master cutoff, and I'm going to change it to LFO3. And here we can adjust the curve. And the symmetry. Really cool stuff there. Full blending of different shapes. You're not set to distinct shapes. You can actually create your own shape. Now, another great thing here is the single mode. You can use this like another envelope if you like. There's also retriggering mode. Almost like a pseudo delay. Okay, and we can times it by LFO1. So now LFO1 is going to affect LFO3. So much flexibility here with these LFOs. So very fully featured LFO section on the PolyBrute, and great to have on this synth. Again, expands your sound design possibilities exponentially. So I haven't even touched on one of the key features of this synth, which is the morphing functionality. So let's take a look at that before we dive into things like the matrix. But essentially the PolyBrute has implemented something never before done in the analog domain, and that is essentially morphing from an A layer to a B layer, or from a B layer to an A layer within a sound. And it is not a simple crossfade, it is actually morphing the various parameters, the knobs, the sliders, the modulations behind the scenes as it, morphs from the A or the B layer, vice versa, or anywhere in between. So to give you an example of how extreme that can get, we take a sound like this, and we morph it. I mean, I've never heard anything like that or experienced anything like that with any other synth that I've ever used. And that is really crazy stuff. There's so much change possible within a single patch in terms of timbrality and sound, and in terms of sound design, that it's mind-blowing. The possibilities are literally endless, because you can not only have the B layer or the A layer, but anywhere in between. And that could actually be set as a patch. Not only that, there's also the Morphee, which can control morphing. So you can actually control the morphing from the Morphee as well. Fantastic. There's also this morph section here where it's more utilitarian. It allows you to directly edit layer A or directly edit layer B and load patches into A or B, etc. So lots of control there. You can also swap layer A and B, copy A to B, etc. So a lot of functionality there. I'm not going to get into that on this video, but just know that you can actually do a lot with the morphing functionality in terms of utilities. Now, other expression capabilities here, of course, is the ribbon controller. Awesome. So, you know, if you want to have expression capabilities with the ribbon, you can do that. You can assign anything to this, just like you can with the Morphee or the wheel and things like that. So very handy to have on this synth. Let's now take a look at the sequencer. So to simply enter some patterns and such, there's both a step sequencer and there's also a real-time sequencer. So for the step sequencer, we simply select sequence, and we can say, before we enter the notes, how long do I want the sequence to be? I'll make it 32 steps. And then I will say record. And I can start entering my notes. It's also polyphonic. That's it. Now we press play. Okay, so that is our sequence. Of course, we can tweak things as we go. And I'm going to bring in some effects here a little bit. Modulation, some chorus. Maybe a touch of delay. And perhaps a touch of reverb. There's also play modes. So it's currently going forward. We can say pendulum, which is going to reverse at the end, as well as things like random. So that's great to have as well. Now we can also record things like modulations of parameters. for the sequencer, up to 3 different lanes. Check this out. I select modulations, I hit record. What do I want to tweak? Master cutoff. It's now part of the patch, or part of the sequence, I should say. Let's do another adjustment here, metalizer. We can also record something like an envelope adjustment. So, lots of flexibility with that. And of course, you can do things such as accents, glides, things of that nature. So if we go to the notes here, I can put in some accents. I can also do glides on the top row, and that's controlled through the glide. Now, there's also a real-time sequencer on board, and that's quite easy to access. We simply hold play plus record, and there's also a metronome that helps you enter your notes. There's also an overdub mode, which is fantastic, so you can layer things on top. Lovely. There's also an arpeggiator on board, so let's check that out. Simply press ARP and then hold, and then put in my notes. There's a couple different play modes here. Up, down, inclusive, exclusive, ordered, random, as well as pattern. Pattern's really cool because you can get some interesting patterns, essentially, and it somehow does something with the root notes where there's probability and things like that. And if you like the pattern that you get, you can save it into the sequencer, which is fantastic. So, fantastic to have that ARP there. And in addition, not only is there a regular arpeggiator, but there's also something called the matrix ARP. So to access that, we simply hold ARP plus sequence, brings us to this screen. And this essentially allows you to program up to 6 notes per step, as well as the octave up or octave down as it's playing, and a few other items such as slides and things like that. So let's check that out. here that I'm putting in different notes. So you can get many different variations. Lots of flexibility. I mean, you can get lost in this thing for hours, to be honest with you. There's so much you can do. So we've looked at the sort of control panel here, and of course with any sequence you can take out notes, as you saw as I went along here with the Matrix ARP, but you can also do that with the regular sequencer, of course, as well, to adjust the pattern on the fly. And now let's get into the effects section, because there's a lot of great stuff here, and these are some fantastic quality effects. So first of all, there's the modulation effects. Chorus. Sounds lovely. There's also phaser here. As well as alternative effects for the modulation. Flanger. A 12-pole phaser. As well as a ring modulator. CS80 types of sounds here. There's also a bit crusher. Kind of grimy, noisy. Soft flanger. Phase flanger. There's also a downsampler. Okay, let's move on to the delays. So by default, it is a bucket brigade delay here. Regeneration. You can control the speed of the delay time. Great for stuff like drones. Absolutely. There's also a ping pong delay. And you can hear that panning in the stereo field. There's also a number of alternative delays. Stereo delay. We have a long delay. Bucket Brigade Ping Pong. Car Plus Strong. Stereo Spread. Parallel. And Bucket Brigade Spread. So lots of functionality there with the delays. And of course you can sync that to things like clock, etc. Now let's touch on the reverb. There's some absolutely stellar reverb here. By default there's the hall. So I'm going to increase the level here in their time. Listen to that decay. Beautiful. Okay, that's the hall. There's a plate. And a couple others, such as bright plate. There's also things like room. There's something dreamy here. Shimmer. There's also a spring reverb and a delayed plate. This is my personal favorite, I think. Super spacious. Wow. Absolutely gorgeous. Guys, I don't know about you, but that sounds incredible to me. I mean, that reverb is super lush. That decay. Of course, you can also dampen it. Beautiful reverb. So another great feature on the PolyBrute is the motion recorder, and this allows you to essentially record a single lane of motion, which can be applied to any parameter here on the front panel, essentially. So to do that, I simply press the button, and then I can say once or loop it, and I hold down a key, adjust the parameter I want to modulate, let go, and then I can play it back. And it's polyphonic as well. You also have rate control. So what you get here is another envelope or custom LFO shape. Fantastic to have on a synth like this. Just another extra feature that Arturia has put in that allows you to be super creative. So a couple of last things here on the top left. There is some more utilities, things for controlling polyphony, for instance. So currently in 6-voice mode. We can also say unison. Or mono. As well, you can get into things like splits and layers. So currently we're in single mode. I can change the timbrality to be a layered mode. So there's an A layer, B layer. And in this mode, there's only 3 voices available. As well, there's also a split mode. Okay, so functionality there is great to have. There's also wheel control here. Currently it's set to the vibrato. But you can have things such as LFO amplitude if you wanted, if that was assigned already, or in the matrix control, or cutoff. Right? And then lastly, there's Morphee control for the matrix, ARP sequencer, or morphing control from the Morphee itself. So the Morphee can actually control things like the ARP. So that is essentially the Arturia PolyBrute in a nutshell. It was a pretty high-level overview, but I just wanted to give you guys a sense of various features and functions that are available. Now, that said, this is a lot of synth for the money. Let's be honest here. This is one of the most complete, fully featured analog polys come along in a while. And you're getting a lot for your money. It's extremely deep. It's a complete package. Functionality, the capabilities of this machine, of this instrument. The sound, modern, futuristic. There's touches of vintage in this. Dual filters, the Steiner-Parker, the serial and parallel filtering, routable filtering. Fantastic stuff there as well. And it really gives you a nice crisp sound, lots of top-end sizzle if you need it, smooth. And it's really a unique sort of Arturia sound, especially with things like the brute factor. No other synth has that. I would say though that this is a complex synth. So I'm not sure how a beginner might feel about that, but it's definitely a very powerful synthesizer. There's a lot of functionality here, especially with the matrix. It's a different way of working, and you have to get used to it. So at least I'm finding that for myself. So there's a lot to uncover here, and once you understand it, wow, it really unlocks extremely diverse potential in terms of sound design and capabilities, and it really pushes the envelope. You're really getting a polyphonic, modular, morphing, expressive synth. No other synth here on the market today has the Morphee controller. More analog morphing from layers, 2 different layers, complete actual morphing of parameters in an analog domain like this. And this is truly a sound designer's dream, in my opinion. It will take you years to explore this synth. There's so much under the hood. So if you're interested in the PolyBrute, be sure you're okay with a few things here. Obviously the price and whatnot, but also polyphony, 6 voices, the matrix style programming, some menu diving is required at times. You have to be okay with that. But overall, if you like what you see and you like what you hear, I would highly recommend the Arturia PolyBrute. It's absolutely fantastic, sounds incredible, and is an incredible achievement by Arturia. And hats off to them, because they've done an incredible job on this instrument. So if you guys are considering getting this and you like what it's doing and what it sounds like, go for it. There's no other synth on the market like the Arturia PolyBrute today that I'm aware of, with this much expression and capability, the way they've implemented it. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you checking out this video. If you haven't already, please leave a like, comment on what you've just watched. Love to hear your feedback about the Arturia PolyBrute. And subscribe if you haven't, if you'd like to see more content in the future. And with that, I'm going to wrap things up. So we'll see you next time. And stick around, because I'll be playing a few more patches to lead us out. So thank you very much. See you soon.